Hi Gut Sphere community, welcome back to another episode of Colonoscopy Guide series. Today, I want to tell a very personal story about my colonoscopy experience. My name is Bimal Maharjan. I am the founder of Gut Sphere and a lifelong GI survivor. This is the first time I am disclosing my identity because it's about time that I share my real story and why I am so interested in GI care, gut health, and the gut microbiome. Today, I share an excerpt from my book Living Constipation Free. Actually, my colonoscopy experience triggered me to write the book. It had been 6 months since I had moved to the United States. One morning, I felt pain while pooping and also noticed some blood in the poo. Like most people, I ignored the problem the first time I saw it. I assumed it would go away by itself. A couple of months later, during my annual checkup, mentioned to my primary care doctor that I had noticed blood on the toilet paper 2 months prior, which disappeared within a day or two. The doctor suggested that constipation might have been the cause of the blood episode, mentioning the standard American diet, SAD, as a potential factor due to its low fiber content. Then, 2 years later, I noticed blood in my stool again. During the time between the first and second occurrences, I began experiencing constipation without being aware of it. I believed that spending more than 15 minutes on the toilet, experiencing difficulty passing stools, and having incomplete bowel movements were typical occurrences. After the second occurrence, blood in my stool became a chronic problem, causing hemorrhoids and anal fissures. Living with constant dissatisfaction due to incomplete bowel movements, I regret not taking the initial blood on the toilet paper more seriously. I could have prevented it from becoming chronic. My mother's advice to know more about my disease than my doctor resonated deeply with me, prompting me to take action. I started researching casually, learning fundamental aspects of constipation like increasing fiber intake, reducing meat consumption, staying hydrated, and exercising. While I absorbed a wealth of information, I lacked a comprehensive framework to address the issue. It wasn't until late 2019 that I began to develop a holistic understanding of my condition and started forming a solid framework to address it. Following the second occurrence, I struggled with constipation for nearly a year. Eventually, it subsided after treatment, and I resumed my normal routine. However, within a week or two, constipation recurred, accompanied by blood. Blood seeped from an anal fissure caused by the strain. I attributed this episode to consuming excessive red meat at a 4th of July barbecue, particularly the bacon-wrapped jalapeno and cheese, which didn't agree with my digestive system. I assumed nothing would happen because I drank a lot of water and walked a lot that day. But blood in my stool the next day made it clear my assumption was wrong. That's when I realized that I needed to do more, and I also needed medical help. I consulted my primary care doctor. He prescribed me generic ointment and recommended a diet change and exercise. But he didn't tell me what to eat and how to exercise. Instead, he referred me to a GI specialist. At the GI specialist's office, he quickly diagnosed my condition as a fissure after a brief examination. He provided generic advice on lifestyle changes such as avoiding prolonged sitting, increasing water intake, exercising, and consuming fiber. The GI was in a rush and didn't say anything I didn't already know from the Google search. He prescribed a costly ointment, which I later discovered was significantly more expensive than a generic alternative. The short 15-minute visit cost me approximately $270. Upon returning for a follow-up appointment 6 weeks later, I found myself engaged in a brief 5-minute conversation. By this time, my wound had healed, and my constipation had improved significantly. He suggested a colonoscopy to rule out colon cancer. Assuring me that my insurance would likely cover the procedure, he inquired about any family history of colon cancer or gastrointestinal issues. Surprised by the sudden mention of cancer and the necessity of a colonoscopy, I left the office feeling perplexed yet grateful for the doctor's insight into a potential genetic predisposition for constipation. Constipation runs in my maternal family. While my mother experiences it occasionally, my grandmother, aunt, and uncles also grapple with the condition. Initially, when I questioned my mother about our family medical history, she denied its presence. However, upon further inquiry, she admitted to its prevalence. Unfortunately, constipation remains a taboo subject within our family, often shrouded in shame. In one estimate, millions of clinic visits each year and more than 700,000 emergency department trips are from constipated-related problems. Yet, most people keep it under the carpet. Very few things that helped me came from doctors. I ignored the GI specialist's recommendation to get the colonoscopy done. I felt it was completely unnecessary because, by that time, I had started treating and preventing constipation myself. A year later, when I went in for an annual physical checkup, my primary care doctor advised me to do a stool test to ensure there wasn't any microscopic blood in the stool due to internal bleeding. Later, he warned that I should do a colonoscopy to screen for colon cancer. So I called up the GI specialist to schedule the colonoscopy. Both of my doctors made me believe that it was a preventative screening, which would be 100% covered by insurance. I did what my doctors recommended me to do. It took several calls to the insurance company and GI specialist's office to schedule the procedure. I was 100% wrong about the cost, and the procedure ended up costing me a lot out of pocket. I never thought about writing a book about my constipation problem until I went through my colonoscopy experience. During the week of the colonoscopy, I lost 10 pounds. The colonoscopy was not a complicated procedure. It was the before and after steps that troubled me. I had to fast a day before to cleanse my colon. And then afterwards, I couldn't start eating a proper meal for the next 3 days. Fortunately, when the test results came back, everything was fine. I understand that my doctor wanted to rule out colon cancer or any other severe disease. But he wanted to intervene inside my body before trying out preventive methods. While there may be a time for aggressive measures, should a colonoscopy be the first choice of action? In my case, it led to the unintended consequences of weight loss, weakness, and financial stress. Doctors aren't always to blame. It has been suggested that the U.S. healthcare system incentivizes treatment and defaults to the most expensive care option because it increases revenue for the hospitals, insurance companies, and healthcare systems. I encountered the grim reality of the medical industrial complex as invoices began to arrive. Despite anticipating full coverage from my insurance, I found myself responsible for the entire bill. The procedure was classified as diagnostic rather than preventive, leading to the insurance denial. This ordeal prompted me to question whether the healthcare system should prioritize both the medical well-being and financial stability of patients. 12th century philosopher Moses Maimonides said, "The physician should not treat the disease but the patient who is suffering from it." I felt that my goal to live constipation-free didn't align with the goals of the healthcare system, and I was treated like a customer instead of a patient. I didn't want to hand over my health to a system that treated me that way. I was not a customer. I was a patient. My experience reinforced my mother's advice. As a patient, I needed to know more about my disease than a doctor. The doctors didn't have time to get deep into my problems and solve them at the roots. They had time to give small and vague advice, do more tests, and treat with medicines. I've spent thousands of hours researching, reading, watching, experimenting, thinking, measuring, and monitoring changes to my body over the past 4 years. As a result, I learned many things that my doctors didn't tell me. For instance, you should eat water, not just drink water. Meaning you should eat food that has high water content, eating ghee, clarified butter, can lubricate the intestines, turmeric can reduce inflammation and so on. If I wanted to be free of constipation, I would need to take charge of my life. For a chronic disease like constipation, I found that home remedies, behavioral changes, and long-term responses were the most effective. I needed to change my habits, which was something only I could do. This book documents my journey towards achieving freedom from constipation. I'll delve into the origins of my condition, its triggers, and my strategies for treatment, prevention, and ultimately, recovery. While much of the information I present may not be groundbreaking, I'm grateful to live in an age where knowledge is readily available through various mediums such as books, videos, blogs, and podcasts. Through countless hours of research and study, I've become intimately acquainted with the workings of my own physiology. This book is my endeavor to condense the wealth of information I've gathered and share actionable insights based on my experiences. A pill can't solve this ill. Only you can solve it. By taking charge of your health, you will acquire knowledge, techniques, and tools to become health high and fit. I hope it inspires you to dream of a constipation-free life and then fulfill that dream. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Together, let's continue to explore, understand, and improve our health, armed with knowledge, empathy, and a relentless drive for a better healthcare experience for all. Follow for more GI self-care, gut health, and gut microbiome insights.